Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If you can take your seats now and be ready for the session. I hope you had a good day yesterday, a good evening last night, and a good morning. For those of you who've only arrived the second day, perhaps just to introduce myself a little bit, my name's Louis Yakumi. I'm the publisher of the Automotive Logistics Group and the director of our conferences. Just so you know, for this session, at the end of the session, there will be another voting survey, a poll. So if you can make sure that you're logged into the Automotive Logistics Live app, so you can be part of the voting poll that we'll do at the end of the session. The instructions for that are on the inside cover of the conference program. So please be ready for the voting poll at the end of this session. This session's about the future, the students. So just to give you some idea of some of the things that we've got planned for later on today, in the session after lunch, we've got a session in the main room, an actual conference session, which is where there will be a keynote presentation from the state of Guanajuato, telling us what they're doing to invest in the industry. There'll also be, and then there'll be a discussion on the security and vandalism issue in Mexican transportation, with a focus perhaps for obvious reasons on the rail sector. At the same time, or parallel to that, we've invited about 40 to 50 students from different universities in Mexico City, to join us for an informal forum downstairs in the lunchroom. So that'll be just to persuade them, inspire them that logistics is a great career to be in. And if you're interested in logistics and supply chain, then perhaps automotive is one of the industries that you should consider. So to work for a car maker, a parts supplier, or a logistics company. So there'll be great opportunity to meet them, to talk with them, to inspire them, motivate them, direct them, maybe even recruit some of them for your companies. So that'll be a good opportunity for you to understand what the students are looking for, and obviously for the students to understand the opportunities that the Mexican automotive and logistics industries offers them. At 4 o'clock, we're going to have a keynote presentation from the Office of the Secretary of the Economy. Unfortunately, our good friend Ildefonso Guajardo, Secretary Guajardo, who's spoken at our last two conferences, seemed to be a little bit busy at this moment in time. I'm not sure what's keeping him so busy. But he is sending a senior member of his negotiating team to give us an update on what they believe, or what they are doing, what the Mexican government is doing to protect and support the automotive industry, and the progress and process of the negotiation with the U.S. government to encourage and develop the working relationship, or NAFTA, or whatever it will be in the future. So there'll be a keynote presentation at 4 o'clock. Then after that, there'll be our final session, which is a high-level Q&A with some top-level car maker and logistics executives, just having an overview, reflection on what we've discussed over the 2 days, and to ask a final opportunity to ask some questions to this panel. So that's what we've got planned this afternoon. But this session, as we said, is focusing specifically on the education and talent retention and acquisition for the automotive industry. And I think it's a good opportunity to get the red and green cards out again. And I think this is, well, we'll find out now. If you have the red and green cards on your table, if you can have them ready, I'd be interested to know who actually chose, either at university or at a young age, to go into logistics. So if you decided to go into logistics at a young age, or you studied for it, then please put up the green card. If you kind of fell upon it by accident, you studied something else, you worked in engineering or a completely different sector, and you kind of fell in, you were lucky enough to find and discover the world of logistics, and that's how you joined your industry. So if you can raise your cards, green if you chose from an early age this was a career path for you, and red if you kind of accidentally fell upon it as part of your career progression. Yeah, definitely the majority is red, which is what we kind of expected, and it's very much what we hear around the world when we have these kind of discussions. But I believe and hope that this is now changing. The expectation of logistics is completely different. When I started the magazine 20 years ago, I fell upon it. I fell into it. And even at that stage, I didn't realize how important logistics was going to be. Since then, I've been very fortunate that for us and for our magazine and conferences, how it's developed, how it's become one of the most important sectors in the automotive industry, one of the most important sectors globally. Even if you see some of the projected changes to the way we work, mobility and so on, you know, if one of the big changes is e-commerce, what's at the heart and center of e-commerce? It's logistics and the supply chain. If you look at the big stores, even the old-fashioned stores, you look at the keys to their success, Walmart, Tesco's in the UK, Zara, the fashion company. If you talk to their CEOs, they very rarely talk about the price of Coca-Cola or what the colors in fashion at Zara, is it red or green or blue? What they'll focus in is on their supply chain. They believe their strength is the supply chain. Amazon, their strength is their supply chain, and they're even perhaps going into logistics themselves. So logistics is definitely a great industry in general. Even speaking, I'm working on a project now on investment into the automotive industry or into the logistics industry. It's been felt that it was a forgotten industry, that some of the Silicon Valley big investors, the private investors who've been really investing in high tech, and they're often the same kind of guys. It seems sometimes it's the same guys who invested in Tesla and eBay and LinkedIn or whatever it is. They all seem to be the same group of friends, but they really believe they missed a trick in not investing in logistics a little bit earlier, and it's something they're considering now. So logistics is very much an industry of now, a current industry that's vitally important now, and it's also very much an industry of the future. And very important to Mexico, which brings us to this session. We're going to be discussing and finding out what the opportunity or what the educational systems are doing. What are they doing to support and invest in the automotive and logistics and supply chain industries? So we'll hear from two different universities to find out what they offer and what they're doing and what their plans are for the future to support this industry. And there's a kind of a three-pronged approach as well, in the sense that the first speaker, Santiago García, is very much an academic and leads from an education perspective. The second speaker, Carlos Paredes, is a mixture of the two. He's an academic and is definitely very much an academic now, but was until recently the head of purchasing for Magna in Mexico. And then the final panelist who'll be giving his views from an industry perspective from Volkswagen Mexico, the guys who are actually looking for the talent and trying to retain the talent to understand what their requirements are as well. So I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion on a very important subject. So as this is a session about education and students, can I please make sure that you sit still, don't talk amongst yourselves, sit up, no chewing gum or eating while we're talking, show some respect and manners, and we'll be asking you questions at the end, so we hope you're listening and taking notes. So I'd like to welcome now to the podium Santiago García, the Provost of Panamerican University. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Pues muy buenos días a todos. Me da mucho gusto estar aquí.
Everyone, I'm really happy to be here. I have a major in industrial energy and then a master's degree in research and operations. My doctorate was in administration, and Currently at the university, I hold a directive role. And my approach for this participation is this. I will show some studies and graphs that we created along with Boston Consulting with the Panamerican University in order to have a general outline of my topic. And then I will present you how we make students and young professionals understand how they can develop in the logistics or supply chain arena, trying to understand their frame of mind, their logic, what they expect, how they work, and how we can link the educational sector with the industry gathered here. At the end, we'll reach to some conclusions. My presentation is brief, only 15 minutes. I cannot elaborate further because of time constraints, but I hope we can reach to some solutions regarding the presented issues. The first topic has to do with education trends along master and doctorate degrees. I want to take your attention to these master degrees. In Mexico, there is a predominance in law and administration as for volume, and others are growing like nutrition or nursing. But as you can see in the graph, is that there is no demand regarding engineering master courses or logistics or supply chain related. For doctorate degrees, we can see a predominance in education and administration, and to your lower right we can see a smaller dot for industrial engineering where there is more supply in that sense. This one shows graduates degrees, higher education in Mexico. Number of students enrolled in a bachelor's degree has reached a maximum historic, and you can see how different schools have grown, and all of them show this growth, but the one with the highest growth is engineering with 8%. And this is my first conclusion, general conclusion, which is not applicable across the careers. There is a lot of interest in engineering majors. Young people are interested in IT. They feel it is an appealing field. Also, logistics or supply chains. But at the level of a master's degree, these areas do not appeal them as much because a master's degree linked to these fields doesn't have a significant effect in the income these students will perceive. For doctorate courses, the demand is higher, but also it has to do because doctorate students have detached from an income perspective and they are studying more from vocation. And now this slide shows that universities have gone to important efforts, as we have done at the UP, developing soft skills. Clearly shows that we must work in this aspect. I am providing my academic perspective, and the following presentators will tell about their expectations, but perhaps it is related to this information. This is a very interesting table since it shows in numeral 3 how engineers have a characteristic. Their technical profile is high, or they require to have a high technical profile, but also they require to have soft skills. That is why it's not easy to find the ideal person for this industry. And in the lower table, we have that only 4 out of 10 graduates work in their field of study. And this presents a more acute level. In the case of engineering, several engineers, once they have a professional practice, they do not work in engineering fields. There is this perception in young professionals, and we have seen this with our alumni. Perhaps in your sector you see this. If you want to have better economic growth, you should opt for marketing or sales, because whatever needs more thorough preparation is operations and logistics, but it might seem that the market doesn't reward with equivalent salaries as much as you can make in marketing or sales. This plot shows that there is a difference between the perception students have and what employers have. What I want to highlight is the difference between the plotted red line and the green bars, because in the background it would seem that the self-esteem of students is high. And as a counterpart, the employer's perception, this is low, as they can see from students. There can be several interpretations from this, but I will discuss this further in my conclusions. This graph talks about the skills students feel are more important and the counterpart. What do employers feel about skills from students? There is a difference. They see life in under different optics. Students have a higher value for cultural or organizational matters, while employers focus in problem solutions or commitment. This is a general conclusion, and also that they speak different languages. Sometimes what students and employers see is different, lacking a bridge between these two perspectives. This is a very interesting slide. Students behave as consumers. We are being alerted as universities, telling us that students do not rely blindly in universities. Rather, they have higher expectations from teachers, since they are paying for their education, and it might seem that they have a more critical perspective, and this is also true for the hiring companies. So it might seem a contradiction, but sometimes students that are hired by companies, I perceive as customers as well, and students questions, and I am not saying that they are right. So students come to an employer saying, which will be my gain if I work for you, and what will you give me? So I insist, it is not that they are right, but this is their frame of mind. This slide shows us some trends on how students behave. They work under the logic that they select by demand and not what they are provided. Or they are used to use Uber or Waze as tools where they rate the service provider. They have the guarantee of the optimal route, and this is what they have become accustomed to. And in this slide, we can see that in Mexico, the number of Mexicans from Generation Z is a greater percentage of a population. 29%, 33 million Mexicans, which are native digitals and not as the previous generation that were born to DVDs. They are not used to portable devices for listening to music. Rather, they are the Spotify generation. And here we can see some characteristics from Generation Z, born in 1995 and forward. And I find 2 or 3 features interesting. More than 75% of Generation Z are worried about our planet, and they work as voluntaries for a good cause, while at the same time they want to be entrepreneurials. As I tell my students, when they imagine that to be an entrepreneurial, they will be like the genius Steve Jobs. And what I say is that he was a regular man, and he was successful because he worked very hard. So to be an entrepreneurial doesn't mean that they will be free to work, but they have also work harder. So students must be educated as well. Here we can see that they do not rely on brands, rather they rely on third parties' opinions. As we can see, Generation Z relies in their friends' opinion, their mouth-to-mouth recommendation. It's a generation that recognizes the opinion of others. And this aspect is interesting because the mentality of the Generation Z has to do with this. It is not that they will enroll in universities saying that they want to major in biology. Their current approach is, what I want is to eradicate hunger in the world. That is why I study biology. So this is a general trend. And what you might say is that students, as well as young professionals, are not moved by the what or how, rather for the why and what for. This table shows the higher education ecosystem. We have made an important reflection, and we can see that we cannot be isolated, turning our back to the world. We are part of this ecosystem, and we should discuss with the industry, mass media, and public sector stakeholders. This is our view from the inside out, but from the outside inside, we should realize the need to interact with these geopolitical, economics, Trump issues, uncertainty, the role every pillar of our society has, public, private sector, society, universities, has to be strong, and they have to be able to dialogue. And now to my conclusions. I will give you general outlines that can help the industry to understand better students and young professionals and see how we can work with them once they incorporate to our workforces. Carlos and Alfonso will give us their different perspectives. Perceptions that create obstacles for students. Sometimes they are disappointed because they feel that to be developed in these fields, they will not be as greatly paid as in other sectors. They perceive that industries as the automotive industry may be pragmatic. Perhaps they will not have such a comprehensive development. This might be due to perception and not as a reality. They perceive the industry as Google that offers a comprehensive development, and perhaps the perception in this industry differs from that. Also, work becomes routine. They don't have a whole vision, and this is like an obstacle to developing this sector. Number two, relationship university industry will require mutual understanding, generation of joint projects, and also As an example, in the banking industry, they have set an eye in universities, and they know that the student, since they are studying, focuses on working in a bank. That creates a long-term relationship. I think we could do this from the specific automotive and logistics industries. Also, this industry has positive points. It is an aspirational industry. It has appealing technology solutions and creative. It's not boring, it's challenging and fun. And for students, this might be appealing. And also, I have some ideas to close this gap so you can get to the students and recruit them. And my ideas are these. One, generate an appealing culture, this mouth-in-mouth recommendation. So on one side, salaries, but also to see professional growth perspectives, but also personal growth perspectives. And the example that I have for Google, there are some small initiatives in-house, easy to execute. They have positioned themselves as an appealing industry, so the place of work has a nice environment. Concerned for social issues. And I would say that this is not to say I have corporate or social responsibility. Rather, they realize if the company is concerned by social issues or the environment, and if they are having voluntary solutions where they can help transform our world. This is a greater trigger for them. Innovation or entrepreneurship in-house, they have to be able to browse throughout different areas in order to gain greater visibility as a great motivator. Work alignment, this is a simple concept. When Karl Marx disseminated his philosophy, he stated that there was alignment when you separated the work with the surplus. And the UP founder said it's not that. It relies on the Marx alignment. Rather, when you separate work from the sense of work. So where someone lacks a beyond vision, cannot fully participate in process decision making, they do not get involved in decisions, but they will involve even further when this decision making process is incorporated. They like to work with interdisciplines, they like to have this broader vision so the work makes sense, and the company may have specific actions for this. And last, commitment. From industry, as we from the university, we would like to have more committed students or young professionals, and this is true, they have to be more committed. But if we gain them, we convince them, following a series of actions that will make them fall in love with our company, at the end they will be convinced. Sometimes the process with the millennials and Generation Z has to begin with this attempt to convince them and win them over, and not the other way around. So they will see a win-win situation with shared responsibility when they take part of decisions, and their development possibilities is comprehensive in their person. Thank you for your attention. And now I will give the floor to the next presentators.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. Very good presentation, especially for us. I think that, we're talking about what we want from the students, but I think an interesting perspective is if we want people to join our industry, we need to understand them. And I think you gave us some very interesting insights on what they require and how we join the two together. Their requirements will often be, too one-sided. Our requirements are on the other side, and we need to find that gap where we can both work together. Next up to hear another presentation from IBERO University, Panamerican University this time, Carlos Paredes. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you, Luis, and Catherine, and the whole team to make this possible. This was a great event, and thanks for the opportunity of being here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what we are doing in Iberoamericana. Probably some of you know this university, but you don't. But I would like to start with a very brief presentation of who we are. We are a very large university located in Mexico. Our main campus is right here in Mexico City, Santa Fe. So we have some other campus around in Puebla, León, Guanajuato, Guadalajara. One far west of Mexico, Tijuana, and we are located in the northeast of Mexico, depending on Torreon, and I'm working in the Saltillo campus. Saltillo depends of the Torreon campus, and this is very generic numbers of our number of students, number of people in master degrees and after graduate programs, and that something that is a very, let's say, the identification of the IBERO is that we are a human university. So we consider the human factor in everything that we do. We also want to develop guys in a very professional manner, okay? I'm going to be talking here a little bit about Coahuila State, because when we launched this idea of this program that I'm going to be talking here, that was launched in Coahuila. And for some of you that probably don't know, Coahuila is a very large state located north of Mexico, which is in the middle of the desert. This region, Coahuila, Nuevo León region. So we have a very poor agriculture to keep us economically safe, let's say. So industry for the last 3 years has been blooming there. So between Coahuila and Nuevo León, we have automakers. Everybody knows about Chrysler, GM, Freightliner located there. We have Kia, very recent in Nuevo León State. We have other large trucking companies, Navistar. And this chart right here shows that Coahuila State, by the single state, is the first larger producer of auto parts. Let's say we have all the tier ones located in Coahuila. And most of the companies are located in Saltillo. Saltillo, Monclova, and the northern of Coahuila, few of them in Torreon, some of them in Nuevo León. You see the second region, which is faster growing in Mexico, is the Bajío area. So, but this 3 or 4 states there, Querétaro, Guadalajara, Querétaro, Jalisco, Aguascalientes, and San Luis Potosí. So this information right here is showing a very attractive field for the educational side. So before I was working in this supply chain management for about 30 years. My last work was with Magna, charge of the supply chains, and I saw these states getting more and more companies from all over the world. And we have a challenge, a challenge that probably you are experiencing now. Who's going to be doing the work? Who's going to be doing this in a professional manner? Who's going to be getting the results why the companies are located in Mexico? Okay, so going back to a little bit to this program, I'm going to jump this. And we developed this program. This is in Spanish because it's a part of the IBERO brochure. We developed this program focused on the present need in the state. As I'm telling you, all these companies located there, they have the need to have professionals in the logistics and supply chain management. So, and guess what? we have a number of people working in the field, and I was probably part of this, as Louis mentioned, who picked for a logistic career since the beginning? Well, I don't. And probably most of you don't, and most of the guys that are working there, they didn't pick for a logistic or supply chain career. They just go there for a chance and start doing some mistakes and learning. So we have the need to provide some professional education and develop them for their own career development, as well as to provide the results that the company are expecting for. So this program is a very generic, I can say it's also a very unique program because it's trying to get the end-to-end logistics. I'm going to be showing something here from the very academic side of APICS, and probably most of you know APICS. What's logistics? Logistics is the chain that links the suppliers with the customers. It is present everywhere. And it's always there, and since the macro logistics bringing parts from China, as everybody was saying, to the micro logistics, having the source of parts feeding the line from a yard, from the warehouse next to the producer. So this program was based with this model in mind. Before APICS was another association named Supply Chain Council. They have the SCORE model, which is there, and then you can find this in Google, which is taking the logistics or all the supply chain from end to end. So, and also having the best practice or the best breakdown of practices that we are trying to put in an academic program with the Mexican taste, for sure, because nobody's talking about worldwide about the complex Mexican custom system. And everyone knows that it's a unique complexity to have this Nexo 24, Nexo 37, and everything that we need to comply in order that we can operate in Mexico. So in this program, we try to get the best of the theoretical work plus something related to our day-to-day operation. And the program, I can tell you, I can say this is a success program by now. So we are now in the 4th generation of students, and we have probably 30 already graduated students that they go back to work and they provide a better performance in there. So this is something here that is for me the great challenge, and probably is the reason why I'm here. The whole demand of logistic professionals for the future, because this world, we really want this or not, is smaller and smaller and smaller, and we are a global industry. So we need professionals to move, to connect suppliers with customers all worldwide, no? So we need then to have some practitioners that are professional developed and not just going and making careers by a chance. And again, this is costing us, and everybody knows here, it's costing a lot of money not having professional and well-educated people doing this. So what is happening in reality is something that I see by my own. So we don't have the professional people oriented to continuous learning inside the industry. Why? I think this because most of the people getting to a certain position, they feel that they comply with their expectations and things like that. And so they go there and they are production control guys, they are shipping and forwarding, they can be in the planning area. They feel that they are good with that, but they are not really updating themselves to the real challenge that this always changing world represents for them. Let's talk an example that was mentioned yesterday, and is something that we have the big data. Big data is a bunch of information that's generating every day more and more information from everything, from suppliers, from transportation companies, from customs, from everything. So to have people able to understand and make a good interpretation to take a good business decision out of this big data is really complex. And this data is just keeping us busy to having papers, to having files, to having some very nice information system, computers and everything, but it's very difficult to take this data out, sorting that, getting information, useful information for what's going to be the next step for our companies. And it's something that looking this inside the workplace and taking guys out in the university and challenging them what they will be doing with this information, what's going to be the next decision that they can take with that. This is very interesting, guys. I believe me, this is something that just insulating these people in a classroom, they can realize themselves about where they stand. So, and I can say about other things, like innovation, for example. Most of the people in the workplace, they don't have the room, they don't have the time to innovate. So sometimes we need to take them out and having them in another environment, in a university, in a classroom, just pushing them for fresh ideas, what's going to be the next step that they can take, what's going to be the next improvement they can make, cost reduction, improvements, better packaging, going more green in terms of fuel, empty miles, returnable packaging. And most of the times inside the workplace is just operating with blind eyes. So with everything here, this is some questions that I'm making here. So are we really supporting with the education programs everything that the industry is needing? Are our programs in the university really aligned with what's going to be the next steps? Probably most of the things that we do now will be obsolete in 10 years. 10, 20, 15 years ago, we don't even imagine to have robots in the warehouse. We don't even imagine these AGVs, the automatic picking systems. So what's going to be in 10 years from now? Don't know. So what we are going to be facing these challenges, our companies, our students, and guess what? Probably most of us will be retired already. So who's going to be running the show? And it's probably the main challenge that we have on the academic side today. Something that is just information that you can take this is how large is this business? How much money we spread as an user, end users, automakers, tier ones? Everything is moving around the world. These numbers, $50 million, $150 million, is just an example. If we go, and you probably know better than me, what's going to be the money that is spread every year in the logistics field. And then the question is, who's going to be managing this? So what's going to be the type of education that these people, materials guys, logistics guys, transportation guys will be, or they need to know in order to do this efficiently? On top of that, and I will say again, these empty miles that somebody said yesterday, that is probably 40% of the transportation is just empty. Just imagine the fuel that is spent doing nothing, and the money that it costs. So this is another example of what's the size of the cake. No, I took this information from this source, but it's interesting. No, it's interesting to see in anything that is moved around this world. What's the logistic or transportation cost component on the overall material cost, on the landed cost? No, I'm not talking about the selling price, just the cost. If I'm buying something in Asia or buying something in Europe or Canada or even Brazil, what's the percentage of this cost that is related to logistics? So by being in purchasing for too many years and managing this supply chain, I was always struggling with what's the price, is this a fair price that I'm paying for? What's the logistic content? So we're giving this, I can say this is a very important task to guys that are not really close educated to understand that. No? So, but this is part of the people that work for us. So again, the importance of having well-educated people understanding everything, because they are responsible to manage a high percentage of our material cost. Another example, Being in the industry for a while, I saw a number of times companies, OEMs, tier ones, and manufacturing companies spending a bunch of money in operational excellence, and this is okay, for sure, no? But operational excellence and everything that is built inside, if we take the overall production cost of any good, that probably will be something between 20 to 30%. Meanwhile, everything that is in the supply chains can be between 60 to 70%. You got the point? So we are having a high percentage of our total manufacturing cost with guys related to supply chain management, logistics, transportation, packaging, warehousing, and everything. So these are some of the challenges that I see are our main challenge now in Mexico. If we want to keep this country in the trend that it is, growing in the industry side, getting more business. We have probably a bumpy situation now with the NAFTA, which is okay. These things need to change and represent challenge, but the world is larger, right? So we need to develop supply chain providers and customers to the south of the continent, to Europe, to Asia. And those are some challenges that I see here. So we need to develop education programs with guys with an international high profile. So most of the people which is working now in these fields, they have, it is not good or bad, it's just the way that it is, because they develop careers inside their companies, and they have a very narrow vision of what is happening around him. What is happening in Brazil, what's happening in Europe, how Mexico is one of the countries that has more free trade agreements, but nobody's looking at that. Everybody's concerned about the NAFTA only. So, but we are having this talk. So let's make the question, why we are not trying to go to other places? Probably because we don't understand, we don't know, we just ignore. So this high-profile education, high-profile or international high-profile vision is needed in our young people. We need also, and I'm talking now for the university, we need to redefine, we need to rethink our teaching methods. So the traditional class with some slides and a guy just blah, 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 is not really helping anyone. I cannot teach anything because I have a limited knowledge of everything, right? So we need to take young people inside the industry, make them or challenge them to learn by their own, giving them projects, giving them some challenge that they can produce something. Make them the workplace attractive. Make them even sponsor some projects. I have students that they have very good ideas. Let's say everybody now, the millennials, are thinking to manage the world with some apps, having the information in their cell phone, having this inventory management cell phone. There are good ideas. And when they make some business cases analysis, how much money do I need for blah, 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 nobody is really interested to put some money there. And this is probably one challenge of the companies together with universities. Okay, guys, how we're gonna be giving you the chance to develop, the chance to make something possible that will be benefit our companies. Another point that I want to mention here is, and that was mentioned for Santiago, this was a very good presentation, very, very useful to understand our young people. The cross-functional teams, cross-functional learning, cross-functional knowledge. For years, we have guys, let's say guys in engineering, that they have a very, very limited knowledge in finance, and they're decision makers. They are guys that they accept a price, they accept a cost, they accept a tariff, they accept whatever that they cannot understand. So in my opinion, this is just an example, having some very basic finance education for the logistic professionals. But we can say finance, we can say customs, we can say transportation, we can say basic geography. So how many miles are from Dayton, Ohio to Monterey, let's say? What's going to be the cost per mile? What's going to be the fixed cost of trucking? What's going to be the variable? How the variable is behaving in the US? How the variable is affecting the Mexican side? And all these questions that needs to be made in seconds by a guy that is signing a contract, by the guy that is contracting a transportation company from southbound states. And again, this is the question, who's doing that? This is not always a manager that has the time to do everything. The companies are not here to micromanage. So we need to educate our people that is working in the day-to-day activities. And again, some challenges. So the I'm suggesting here is to develop more collaborative learning and teaching programs. Let's say I have students with this, taking this master's degree that are willing and eager to be part of something, to participate, to be part of projects, part of they are not afraid about the challenge. They are afraid to be bored and to be frozen there, just taking care of pedimentos or taking care of the customs clearance, things like that, no? Because they are really afraid to getting older, doing nothing and not having a meaningful life. Something that also Santiago mentioned, this is not just the work by the work, it's looking for the meaning of this work. So those young people are there. So we can engage those students together with industry, together with companies, firms that are in the logistics field, and make them grow in the benefit of everybody, benefit of the country, in benefit of the companies, in benefit of the education system. Challenge them with projects, challenge them with some difficult task. They can solve it, believe me, because they are young, they have ideas, they see the world in a way different than we see the world now. And again, the sponsorship is important, no? Because we can say not all the universities they have a budget to sponsor projects. This needs to be funded by someone, probably for some governments, agencies, for some companies. But let me tell you something, at the very end, the benefit will be great for everybody. Another couple of things here, because gender. Gender is important. I see a number of girls that are eager to go inside the industry, to go to do some yard management, to do some transportation analysis, but most of the times they end in customs, they end this and this. Talent is not limited by gender. So this is now an opportunity to challenge ourselves, to give equal opportunity to everybody, and to pay for a scholarship for a girl as well as we can pay for a guy, right? So this is important, and well, let's make this question. Is the way that we operate logistics now attractive for millennials? Just think about that. Just look around this room, most of us probably are 50s or something, so who's gonna be running the show? Guys that are now probably playing PlayStation or just having an application, looking at Facebook. But this is a fact of life. So that young people will be running this in a way that we don't even think about, that we cannot imagine. So with this new generation needs to be pushed and challenged, because this is going to be the only way that this country will be surviving. And the very last question that I made myself a number of times, and I can leave that on the table. Is mentoring a real solution? I have learned that not exactly is a good solution. When I mentor someone, I'm trying to teach everything that I know. But my experience is limited. My knowledge is limited. So let them to learn by their own. We just need to support them to go for this learning, and we will see the benefits. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Again, a very good presentation that reminds us of exactly how we need to develop the people, what the universities have to do, understanding the students, making sure we try to, or think about providing the right information and how we share that information with them. Next up, we'll hear a little bit from the industry, the person or one of the people who are looking for the next generation of automotive logistics. So I'd like to welcome to give a statement and his views on how the development and retention of logistics and supply chain talent. I'd like to welcome Alfonso Guttierez from Volkswagen Mexico. Thank you.
Hello, good day, everybody. First of all, I would like to share some about my background. I've been in Volkswagen Mexico for 18 years almost. Currently, I'm responsible of the transport planning for inbound of materials and outbound for the exportations we do to other factories of the group, and also for the inbound and outbound for the finished vehicles. When I began, I wasn't planned to work in logistics, as we mentioned, and I think the majority of us is the case. I started in finance, and I worked around 8 years, always in finance as the controlling guy, always for logistics. And after this period of time, they invited me to jump into the logistics. And everything that I measure, criticize, challenge them to improve became my problems and now my things to solve. And at the beginning of that point, I really loved changing to logistics in terms of being able to get challenges, challenge myself, challenge my team, and bring solutions. When I was hearing everything here about what Santiago and Carlos presented, there were some thoughts in my mind in terms of what logistics are we talking about? What logistics teams? I think we here are the most glamorous and maybe lucky part of the logistics. No? Everybody with ties, everybody here having the parties yesterday that Christopher organized pretty well to have us motivated there. But we are also talking about logistics in terms of the warehouse. No? The guy that is there 10 o'clock in the night, or it needs to be coordinated transportation inbound plan on a Saturday or Sunday, early in the morning. These guys are not living what we're living. And the challenge in terms of how to motivate them, how to retain them, it's a quite different story, I think. So far, the marketing guys, the planning guys, the IT solutions, all these teams may believe a different kind of logistics are the coordinators, operation managers, supervisors. And as far as I think, we also want university guys and people qualified in these positions. We're not talking always about the forklift guy that only has high school that jumped into a coordination position because so many years, or he had some different glance in his eyes. We thought he was capable of getting that position. So I think we really do have a challenge in terms of how to motivate, how to retain the people. And of course, if we begin with the universities showing a bit more of how the logistics is integrated and explaining that there's that world to the young people, I think that's a step further in any case. But we have as an industry, or in your cases, some of you as logistics suppliers, as well, the main challenge in terms of retaining the people and motivating them to be there. And I think we hear a lot, yesterday in the think tank, I was talking with Luis earlier, I heard a lot about this millennials thing, expecting us to sell the job and to convince them that we are the best choice where to stay. And I do think we need to do that. That's definitely a part of the relationship. It's a win-win situation. The other thing I think is pretty important, how we pick and we select the people. I think the majority of us are here in these nice sessions, in this, as I call it, glamorous part of logistics, mainly because we're self-driven to improve ourselves, to get challenges, to beat the problem that we had in front of us, no? To convince the company or the enterprise or to shut down the controlling guy that is challenging you with costs. And that I think is a key element in terms of the relationship with the people, no? Carlos was also talking about providing the people projects, challenges, maybe sponsoring them. And I think that that works with the right kind of people. I think a lot of us are people that love to have a challenge in front of us, love to find new ways to do things, and I think picking that talent, it's a key element. Some of the people are still there, or we have them because they were part of the team since several years, and then you receive the team that way. But, and then the challenge is to develop this need of success, this need of beating the reality you have in front of us. Because with all this gasolinazo issue, mainly in Mexico, and as previous finance guy, of course, and you all understand, costs are going to have an additional pressure within this year. And improvement on cost has always been the best selling argument in terms of logistics. I would provide you a cheaper solution. And unfortunately, the people in the warehouse, the people in the operations are part of the costs. And then the salary and the compensation scheme is also something that challenge this retaining effort. But I really believe that one part of it is, of the retaining effort, is to really be able to provide enough challenges, feedback, and sense of growth to the people so that they really are self-driven and happy in terms of looking at that. And that's a main challenge in terms of picking the people or switching or developing the people that we already have into this kind of path so that they can really be there because they love logistics. I'm pretty sure that most of us really love logistics. It's a challenge. Maybe some of us receive calls at 10 in the night, middle of the night on a Sunday, but we still love logistics and we're challenged daily there. So the university's effort definitely will help us to get people in a better understanding, will make our lives easier, not making a chemical engineer to understand how the consolidation process and warehouse process works, or even have another kind of career people with us. We might get more prepared persons, these millennials, with all their requirements to us. I think will reduce maybe at least a bit of the pressure to us selling the job and say, hey, stay with me, don't jump here to there. If we go through this self-esteem or this self-sense of achievement and provide the freedom, as Carlos was saying, hey, develop, grow, move yourself where you want, and don't chain them to just one part of the business. At least for this kind of people coming out from these universities like IBERO, I don't know, they're paying, I don't know, most of them will pay maybe the double per month to study in these universities than what they're going to get as first salary. So they really need to get something back, and I think that the best way to get something really back that will make them happy and will help us to retain them is this self-esteem issue in terms of achieving things and being able to be at some level owner and designer of their career path in terms of achieving things. So when Luis said me, hey, can you participate in this retaining thing? I said, okay, as an automotive thing, I do need some kind of a better alignment to what I need as logistics, and universities certainly can help us to get more qualified persons. But yesterday, after hearing, and today, after Santiago's presentation about millennials, then I shift my mind. I hope it's providing some kind of a new point of view to you in terms of how can we mostly retain people and also not only think about our logistic world, as I mentioned, the top level of marketing, sales, coordination, general managers, but also the people that are coming from the beginning in the warehouse, in the Saturday, third shift, second shift. Those people also, how can we support them and make them believe in themselves and feel happy with their achievements so that they will not be flying around for maybe 200, 300 pesos per week or something like that. So that is maybe the main message for me after hearing so much about millennials and how do we sell them to them. I think that we need to sell, that we need to compensate them properly. It's going to be a big challenge with the cost pressure reduction that we will live. And so I want to comment with you this other factor in terms of joining with Carlos' scheme in terms of providing them some flexibility, openness, so that they can develop something of their own. And that would be all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Again, a very interesting point. Telling us again the challenges, but what we really need is people who are motivated and really want to be, and really, we can try and inspire them, but they've got to want to do it. So, but it involves, again, the communication on all sides. Provide the education and the career prospects that they want. Make sure we understand what their requirements are, and then make sure we inspire them and push them to have the desire to do it. So I think those are some very interesting presentations there for us to learn, which was the point. Looking out on the audience, it's very obvious that there's not many people who are currently students out there. So I think it helps us to understand what we need to do to encourage people to, let's face it, the reason we're interested in this session is to encourage people to join our companies. So to do that, we have to understand what their requirements are as well. Just a couple of points. At the end of this session, we're going to be doing another voting poll. So if you can make sure you're logged into the app and ready to take part in that. Again, the instructions to how to log in if you hadn't done it yesterday, because quite a few of you did do that yesterday and were part of the poll. But to make sure you're in the poll for this session, make sure you log on again. The instructions are on the inside front cover of the conference program. Also, a reminder that at 2:30, we've invited 40 or 50 students to join us in the lunchroom downstairs. So please, we've got a great session in this room on presentation from the state of Guanajuato and what they're doing to support, encourage and invest in the automotive industry. And then we've got a very interesting and important presentation on security and understanding and solutions for the security and vandalism issues in transportation. But those of you who are interested, I would definitely suggest that at least one or two from each company join the students downstairs to meet them, inspire them, understand them, and take names and maybe say, we can, you might be able to recruit them, get them as interns, or find a way of working with the universities to provide the services that the industry needs and from them. But now's the time for the questions from the audience. So the usual rules apply. If you have a question or a comment, please raise your hand, wait for the microphone to come. The question can be in English or Spanish, so we're happy to do that. There's a question right at the front here from a young lady. Yeah, probably a student, must still be at university, I would guess.
Buenos días. Este comentario es para...
This comment is for Carlos and Santiago. Santiago was saying that students, when they enroll in universities, they have the tendency to think, teacher, please teach me. And Carlos was saying at the end that mentoring should be provided, or we should let students acquire knowledge by themselves? How do both universities face this paradigm of teach me instead of research? Because I work at a factory, the logistics area, and students, they do not understand that they have to do their own research. No one will teach them firsthand. I will answer in Spanish. As I was saying, we should redefine the teaching method. What I did personally, I presented some slides, but I also gave talks. So students obtain a limited knowledge only listening to me, and now I ask them to do some research and work on a project, and this make them move, and the end result is amazing because they can bring any number of ideas, good, bad, but just the promotion of performing research is magnificent. So when they go to work, they develop skills, they set in practice their own ideas to find solutions, to learn by trial and error. And this can be in several topics: social responsibility, corporate responsibility, and they have free research. More inquisitive students research even the bad stuff, and they present all their ideas. Something important is not to place judgment, just respect them as their outcomes from the research project. Yes, and adding to Carlos's comment, the current student is more demanding. As for teachers, the classes have to be good, content satisfactory, and they are critical when it comes to teachers. Also, teachers follow a series of techniques, pedagogic methodologies. There is a general trend not to convey knowledge, but also help them think through their own research. Curricula in the different universities have a mixed posture, and we see that we should pay more attention in this topic. And I agree with Carlos, because sometimes the challenge of teachers is to find a methodology. You provide a bit of information to students, but then you inspire in them the seed of find more. And you have to provide a series of tools so students will be able to build solutions on their own. I think one of the main targets is to achieve critical thinking in students. So when they began working, as you were saying, and you were saying fine, they will not find a manual including all the solutions in steps A, B, C, D. They have to be able to create solutions based on real facts. Thank you. Soy Antonio Guttierez de Pronis.
Is purchasing. Okay, I believe that the real losers are the students. Because the student, when they want to integrate to the university, they believe that all his background that they learning in the university is enough to get a job. But when they arrive to the companies, any companies, they find that they need to learn something different, okay? In my opinion, looks like the companies and the university are as a companies. Universities believe what they need to provide to the students, and the factories believe what kind of students they need to arrive to us, okay? The communication between universities and the industry is not happening. It is the real problem. I believe that the university needs to go to the industry and try to identify which are the common items that they need to know, because common are needed for all the people, okay? Also, the industry needs to go to the universities and try to explain what it's happened reality here in our country. Just for your reference, the logistics is one item that is very important in the total cost. In some cases, the logistics gives the chance to be the country to export to other countries, because in some cases, the production in China and Mexico uses the same equipment and the same quantity of labor, okay? If we have the opportunity to move these parts outside with a lower cost, we will have the chance to export, okay? But if the company doesn't have this knowledge and the people who are doing this activity doesn't have the capability to implement new items, new strategies, and new manners to do this transportation, of course, the competitiveness of our country and also our factories is reducing. For this, to close my comment, I believe that the universities that you represent need to go. In our case, in Nissan Mexicana, we implemented a university inside. The students need to have 6 months with us. They go directly to the lines. They understand the philosophy of our company. And of course, there is a high motivation of them to be part of our company, because in Aguascalientes, it's the best company that they have chance to be there. No? For this reason, my recommendation is we need to do a strong effort for the students, because the students, when they are in your rooms, they believe that after they get his title or he finish his career, they are ready to be in a company. Thank you.
Agradezco mucho el comentario y simplemente menciono una.
Comment. I briefly want to mention something regarding your comment. There can be several other initiatives, but something important from us is professional practices, field practices should take place in companies, and they should have curriculum value. That is a way that I think we should exploit further. And another way is the process of lectures. We have had good practices with the banking industry. Thinking about Alfonso, we could have a Volkswagen or a Nissan lecture, that in your case Nissan could be in charge of imparting a course, and at the end, because of this course, this would be endorsed by the company, so students will have a fresher perspective and embedded in the reality of the company. I think that would be great.
Buenas tardes, Stuart McGillivray, a nombre de Toyota.
I come from Toyota. My question is for Dr. Garcia. In other countries from Europe, they provide scholarships from the government. In the U.S., the industry has scholarships to promote some careers. In your presentation, you didn't mention scholarships. So since Mexico is a developing country, tuition fees is important for several families that do not have the necessary resources. How important are scholarships, and how can the industry do to promote some careers? This is a great question, an important topic, because as Alfonso was saying, sometimes students have to be paid more than their first salary they will receive. I think companies, universities should go through important efforts. We have to be more sensible because the percentage of scholarships from private universities is not enough, and we should have more social responsibility. Second, the government support in this. There's some, but mainly in doctorate programs, but not on business administration degrees. Because of our recent energy reform in our economy major, we opened a terminal with energy courses, and the government is supporting students in this field. From the industry perspective, I think there is great opportunity. We have had positive experiences, and some companies provide scholarships from some low-income students coming from a low-income high school and have low economic resources. Sometimes they can grant 2-3 scholarships, so students are given this grant, and at the end of the career, students can find a job with them, so they will have a long-term development capacity. I think it would be great to continue promoting these initiatives. So far, our experience has been positive, although we still think we should increase the number of them. Something about scholarships and grants, and this is regarding the Nissan comment. What I have seen when universities are developed in some regions, like in the Saltillo area, universities establish relationships with the industry through Canacintra and other chambers. So they tend these bridges, providing a benefit to companies because they could have a preferential cost, and companies have partial scholarships for students. Perhaps the cost of a course can be 10,000, and they can come to an agreement of 8,000 pesos, and they can be co-participants in this scholarship. But this all depends on how involved the university is with the industry representatives. This model can be applied in industrial clusters in the automotive sector in Guanajuato, the north of Mexico, Puebla, southern Puebla with Audi, and this is something universities can approach regional clusters with industries and find options that will benefit the students.
More questions? Just over there.
Good morning. I'm Gustavo Maya from Maritimex. We represent shipping lines for over 100 years. And actually, it's not a commercial. It is a constructive comment. I think supply chain more than before in ocean is getting important. As we as Mexicans, I'm sure we'll have to be looking for the markets, not only the US. I think logistics is a very robust word. I heard some meanings from Mr. Paredes and also from Alfonso. And actually logistics is so robust that we need to be more precise, that we're talking about transport cargo logistics. We need to be talking oriented to supply chain. It can be retail or raw materials. But actually, we're not talking about tourism logistics or military logistics. We're talking about cargo. So that is the first thing. And inside logistics and supply chain, you can talk about ocean, you can talk about air, contract logistics, inland transportation, domestic deliveries, well, even home deliveries. No? So I think we need to be
internacionales,
about ports, about companies serving this transport mode, and I mean try to follow trends of countries like, for example, Japan, UK, Australia, Germany, that have a big culture for ocean transportation. So this is only a constructive comment, and well, we'll be here all day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions from the audience? Okay, one last question from my side, and of course, as I said, we've got some great sessions coming up. We've got the lunch coming up, which is of course another chance to network. But we have at 2:30 got 40 students coming in, so we can talk to them and ask them questions directly, and continue this kind of dialogue there between 2:30 and 3:30 in the lunchroom downstairs. But my question was a little bit the opposite of what we were saying here. Really, is we were saying that are universities keeping pace with the industry? I'm wondering if we're too set in our ways that the industry kind of says, look, this is how we do things, and we want you to do that. My question is industry keeping pace with academia? Are they keeping up with are they interested in the innovations, the ideas that the young students are coming through? Or are we trying to say to them, look, we're going to tell you how we want you to work? Should there be more interest saying, what have you been studying? What's different? What have you learned? What innovation is out there? And sharing that information. So that's kind of really to all three panelists. Are we missing out by trying to tell the students what we want from them, as opposed to trying to understand what they've learned, what the new generation is learning themselves?
I can answer this. I think this approach from the industry to university in some special fields, let's say tool making, or something very technical. We have a number of metal stamping companies located in Saltillo. Then the industry went to the state government and pushed them to open a technical university to develop tool makers or die makers, and was a success project. They brought some guys from Germany with some technical skills, and then they developed very good technicians. That I haven't seen this in the logistic field or the supply chain field. This is like something that everybody makes us easy to understand, and they don't put the effort to go to the universities and having this. That I'm saying is more like a German style way of training, and probably you can share more about this apprentice program, but it's very focused on technical skills. It's still an opportunity to open for logistics and supply chain.
You agree? We're not keeping up.
Sorry, I can't hear the microphone. Sorry. Okay.
That's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay now, I think so. Yeah.
It's okay?
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I think we have done it for very specific things. We need to keep up and expand this kind of communication, as the colleague from Nissan was saying. I think the industry has not been as much as involved and proactive to agree things with the universities.
Yo creo que hay un aspecto muy importante, estoy totalmente de acuerdo que tendría que haber mucho más.
Aspect that there has to be a much more involvement of the industry with the university, and the industry should be much more interested in what the university is doing, what the academicians do, and the researchers do as well. In other countries, if we see study the number of patents that are granted for many countries like Brazil. Brazil has a higher number of patents, and also the developed countries has the highest number of patents. Israel generates a huge amount of patents per year, but this has to do with the joint effort of the industry and the universities. So we need to get much more involved and work together with the academicians. In Latin America, we have seen successful cases where the industry has asked the university to develop a logistics program, and there are universities that are capable to reach the solutions when this can be done with outsourcing of certain topics to address some problems or issues. I think there's a great opportunity see that universities are very willing to go into this dialogue and to try to address all these problems and get to solutions together.
Very much. So just, I think, a final kind of polling thing, really. Maybe two on the red and green cards. The green and red cards, I think I was doing it the wrong way around before. Two questions. I think the first question is, with your children, your next generation, your grandchildren, many of you looking out, would you encourage them, are you encouraging them to go into logistics and supply chain management as a career? So obviously green, yes, or red is no. Okay, I would say majority, but only a little bit of a majority is green. So we are going to encourage them to go into logistics and supply chain. But there's obviously, still a concern about, perhaps how tough our job. The second question is, I don't know how many of you were students, but the approach the approach to students now is understanding what they want. What can we do for them? How can we support them? How many of you wish you were students now? And say, wow, the way they're treating the students seems like more fun than it was when I was at university. So again, how many of you wish you were students now? Green. How many of you wish you were student or stayed the way you were? Yeah, again, I think more of a majority on the green side now. So I think we're missing it. Maybe we've forgotten how good student life was, perhaps. But it's interesting to see. As we said, we're going to be continuing this particular discussion at 2:30 in the lunchroom downstairs. So there is after lunch, we're going to have the lunch now, which is hosted by Hub Group. But there'll be at 3 o'clock, there'll be a keynote presentation from the state of Guanajuato. So you can join that at 2:30. If you wish. Join us, or some of you can join us downstairs for the students to meet 40 or 50 students and have this discussion again. But if you're staying upstairs after the State of Guanajuato presentation, there is a special presentation on security issues. A high-level security expert is going to be sharing some of his ideas on security issues, particularly with transportation. And then at 4 o'clock, there will be, again, a keynote presentation from the General Director of Heavy Industries and High Tech from the Secretariat of the Economy. So our good friend who's spoken the last couple of years, the Secretary of the Economy, Secretary Guajardo, is unable to come himself, but he's sending out a very senior director from his group and someone who's directly involved in the negotiations with the US government to give us an update at 4 o'clock. So if you can, thank you very much to the panel for a very interesting discussion. And in the manner of the students that we're supposed to be, if you can stand up, walk quietly and in an orderly manner to the lunchroom downstairs. No talking, no running. Okay, thank you.